Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Shalom. I'm David Mencer, Israeli government spokesman. A short update from me and then over to your questions. It's Thursday, 18th of July, day 286 of the October 7th war. First on our hostages, brothers. On the weekend of the 7th of October, Eitan Horn, age 37, went to visit his brother Yair, 45, on Kibbutz Nir Oz. Both were brutally taken hostage, Israeli brothers, but also Argentinian, Eitan, an educator, and Yair in construction, abducted from Kibbutz Nir Oz, where 1 in 4 of the residents were killed or abducted. Their mother and father, Ruth and Itzik, unimaginable pain. For their nieces and nephews, unimaginable anguish, 120 of them, men, women, children, the elderly, Israelis, but also from 24 other nations, horrific abuse, 9 months now. Look at them, please. Say their names with me, Eitan and Yair Horn. 286 days, 120 need to be freed. The sheer cruelty of Hamas, their crimes against humanity, continue to this day. Israel will not rest until they are all home. Hamas will be destroyed together with their terrorist threat to Israel, and we will return our residents securely to their homes in the south and the north. Now an update from the north of Israel. This morning, our Air Force targeted, struck and eliminated the terrorist Mohammed Jabara, a Hamas operative in Lebanon in the area of Bekaa. He was responsible for carrying out terror attacks and firing missiles against Israel, often in deadly partnership with Jamaat Islamiyah terrorists. He has fired his last missile now, thereby eliminating Hamas's capability against Israel's north. Israel will not stop operating against Iran's Hezbollah aggression by all means necessary, diplomatically or otherwise. We will restore security to our northern border and get our people back into their homes. Lebanon knows this, as does Hezbollah, under the guidance of Iran, that they bear full responsibility for the deterioration of the security situation in the north in violation of UN Security Council resolutions 1559 and 1701. The current status quo is unsustainable. No one should be surprised. I can also confirm that in Gaza, the commander of Islamic Jihad's naval forces, Anas Murad, and another of their murderers, Ahmad al-Mazri, who actually participated in the October 7th massacre, were targeted and eliminated. Al-Mazri in particular was responsible for numerous rocket and mortar attacks from Shajaiya towards our communities in southern Israel. In Rafah, in the UNRWA center in Gaza City, slowly, precisely, systematically, the IDF are taking the jihadis apart. We are locating their tunnel shafts and taking out the terrorists. Now an update from COGAT and their work coordinating aid into Gaza over the last 24 hours. Can I point you to COGAT's new website? It's got chapter and verse of all the aid that's gone into Gaza. Since October the 7th, 809,000 tons of aid have gone in, more than enough for all the people in Gaza. 77% of that has been food, together with medical supplies and shelter and other goods. Hamas continues to put itself in the way of aid meant for Gazans in need. Just yesterday, Hamas fired an RPG missile at IDF troops stationed along the humanitarian route while aid trucks were driving by. But in accordance with international law, COGAT is moving forward to facilitate humanitarian aid for Gazan civilians. Despite that, more food and aid enters the Gaza Strip every single day. 80% more food compared to that before October 7th. So that's the end of our briefing today. I will now happily take your questions, which you should put in the chat together with your news outlet. First question here is from Joel Pollack at Breitbart News. First question is: the parents of Israeli hostage Omer Nutra received a warm welcome on stage at the Republican convention last night. Can you comment on Israel's reaction to that? Thank you very much for that question, Joel. Israel's government and the Prime Minister has called on everyone in the international community to do everything they can to put pressure on Hamas to release our hostages. So in line with that, we are extremely grateful to the Republican Convention for featuring Omer Nutra and his parents to enable them to raise their profile to get our people home. Of course, we also thank others in the US. For instance, President Biden has welcomed families of hostages into the White House, into the Oval Office, and has worked so hard that we know, for which we are very grateful for his role in trying to get our hostages out. We are extremely grateful to the people of America, to the government of America, and all of people of goodwill around the world that have helped in our effort to put pressure on Hamas to get our people home. The next question here is from Joel Pollock. Will the Prime Minister Netanyahu still meet President Joe Biden on Monday now that the president has tested positive for COVID? Thank you for that question, Joel. I haven't got an update on that. That's news which happened this morning. The Prime Minister's agenda for his visit to the US will be coming out shortly, and there on that will be all the details of the meetings which the Prime Minister will be holding in the US. The Prime Minister is, of course, when he addresses Congress, will be the Prime Minister who has addressed Congress more than any other world leader, more than any other international leader, which on behalf of the people of Israel and the government of Israel, something which he is very proud of, and we look forward to that event next week. The US is our closest ally in the world. For decades, we have stood side by side. It's a bipartisan relationship. We're extremely grateful for the bipartisan nature of this relationship, and long may it continue. It's based on shared values, but also shared enemies as well. Next question here I can see from David Clement from the News Forum. Russia's foreign minister has insinuated that the Israeli government has a provocative mindset regarding Hezbollah and seeking an all-out war. Does the PMO have a response to that accusation? Thank you for that question, David. On October the 8th, the Hezbollah terrorist organization, and let's remember they are a terrorist organization, they launched attacks on Israel. Now, they launched this attack. Why did they launch this attack? Simply because they are a Jew-hating jihadi organization backed by Iran. And this sort of comment from Russia is nothing more than, I would say, nonsense. It's misguided. Hezbollah are a terrorist organization. They're against any democracy. They're against Israel's existence. And they have been attacking us before October the 7th and after the October the 7th. But they fired around 7,000 rockets, missiles at us, projectiles, suicide drones, one way or another, through diplomatic means or through other means. Israel's northern border will be defended. No one should be surprised at the fact that Israel will defend itself. Next question here from Fred Ager from Interplanetary Television. MK Dan Iluz delivered a speech at the Knesset plenum discussing a bill proposal against the establishment of a Palestinian state that would, and supporting his proposal to apply Israeli sovereignty to the Jordan Valley, effective October 7th. His proposal passed with 68 votes in favour and 9 against. How does this new sovereignty of Israel in the Jordan Valley will impact Israel's security and more broadly, how can it effectively prevent the establishment and recognition of a Palestinian state? Thank you for that question, Fred. Let me focus on the last part of your question in particular. The earlier part of your question talks about political issues which have happened in the Knesset, of which I don't have any comment on, but the issue of a Palestinian state. Can I state this quite clearly, that a Palestinian state at this time would reward the terrorists. It's very, very clear. And countries that want to go down this road, or anyone that wants to go down the road of recognizing a Palestinian state, should ask themselves this simple question. Does it encourage the peacemakers, or does it express gratitude to the terrorists? All of us here in Israel, the overwhelming majority of people here in Israel, post October the 7th, the massacre on October 7th, believe that a state, a Palestinian state, which becomes a jihadi state, which becomes a state which is dedicated to the destruction of Israel, is simply not an acceptable proposal. Next question from Fred Ager. There are reports of serious sanitation and public health crises in Gaza due to sanitation issues. Displaced Gazans have been calling for Hamas-run Khan Yunis municipality to remove waste, but to no avail, questioning Israel's involvement in addressing such issues. Will Israel have to step up to solve this public health issues in Gaza, since it's already being blamed for it? Thank you for that question, Fred. That's a question for Kogat, who will be able to deal with that question in more detail than I will be able to from here. Next question. Times of Israel reports your recent official stats on the West Bank Nile virus outbreak regarding West Nile virus outbreak. That is a question for the Health Ministry. Fred, I haven't got anything more to add. The Health Ministry would be the experts on that subject of West Nile virus. Next question. Could you kindly, from Joel Pollock at Breitbart News, could you kindly repeat the address for the new Kogat website, or send it via WhatsApp? Yes, of course, Joel. If you go onto the Kogat Twitter feed or X feed, there is it's clear there where the new website is, and you'll be able to get it from there. But otherwise, I will happily put it out on WhatsApp. Next question is from Mr. Rubin at BIM Group. Do you think that the resilience of the Israeli governance and citizens can also be explained by the strengthening of spirituality, faith and prayer since the beginning of the war? Thank you for that question, Mr. Rubin. As we often say here, there is only one Jewish state in the entire world. It's a Jewish state which has a unique heritage of faith, which draws on thousands of years of history. You merely have to scratch the surface of this country to find evidence of the history of the Jewish people on this land. The Bible is replete with stories about Israel and its and the fact that it's a homeland for the Jewish people, and the faith of Israelis. The overwhelming majority of Israelis, whether they are actively practicing in any way, shape or form, do have a high level of faith. Festivals like Passover, which recall the freedom from slavery in Egypt, are almost universally observed because they have universal resonance to Israel's people. We are a people that recognize evil when we have seen it. We know that for thousands of years, Israelis, Jews around the world faced persecution, but with nowhere to run. There is finally, for the last 76 years, a homeland for the Jewish people. Home has been described as the place where when you need to go there, they have to let you in. And that's what this country is, a homeland for the Jewish people, the only one in the entire globe. That's very important to the Jews living in this country. It's an important article of our faith as Jewish people. And also, it's a homeland for many others who live in freedom here in Israel. whether they be Druze or Muslims or Christians or whatever religion or no religion. This is a homeland it's a homeland for the Jewish people, but for other Israelis as well. And together we have done something very remarkable in this land. It's not something which is covered very often in the media, the social harmony to a large part, the tremendous achievements, the fact that this is the only democracy in hundreds of miles in either direction, the innovation, the creativity that has come out of this country, more startups per capita than any other nation in the world, the inventions which have come here, not to mention things like drip irrigation, Waze, satellite navigation, the microchips which have come from here, the amazing medical devices which have been invented by this country, and all the while this country, of course, has almost no natural resources, almost nothing except for maybe the brain power of its people. And also we've just discovered some natural gas in the sea off our coast. But that's only really just starting to come online. So it is, we believe, miraculous that this country, despite the difficult neighborhood in which we live, has had such tremendous achievements. And despite the terrible shock, the terrible day of Jew killing on October the 7th, this country remains the homeland for the Jewish people. It's why today, even with the difficulties of this war, where we will prevail, you can take my word for it, we will prevail. Despite that fact, Jewish people feeling uncomfortable around the world, in international capitals where anti-Semitism has gone through the roof, they look to this country as a homeland, as a place they can run to. And it's a basic tenet of faith in this country that any Jew is welcome to come and live here. Because I say again, there's only one Jewish homeland in the world, and this country will be defended. And its faith which the Jewish people have kept for thousands of years, maintains us as it has in the past. It does to this very day. So in answer to your question, Mr. Rubin, yes, I do believe that the faith of this people of our people here has very much contributed to the resilience of this wonderful, brave and determined nation. Okay, that's the last question which I can see here. Thank you very much for joining us today. In the meantime, our next briefing will be next week. Please do stay safe, and thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.